Hey guys, Safi with another Raid Shadow Legends, and I am super excited today. We have got a fusion announcement. You probably may have caught Hellhades video already, but I was so excited about this champion that actually I wanted to do one myself. This champion that we have got is probably, in my opinion, the best fusion we have had since Brogni. He is better than Hellhades, in my opinion. So that might be controversial for some people who have pulled Hellhades and have said it's made a huge difference because they've been able to do Ultra Nightmare now in Clan Boss. However, that's obviously a big factor for a lot of players. I still think he is a better champion than Hellhades because of how powerful this champion will be. So in this video, I kind of want to give my own opinion of what I think the champion, why I think he's really powerful. We will go through his kit again if you've watched Hellhades' video earlier. I know some of our audience here is probably watching that one before my video. You could probably skip that bit, but I will give you my thoughts on each ability as to why I think it is good, and it might be of a different perspective. So without further ado, let's get into the kit and have a look at what we have got available to us with Mighty Ukko. So we have Mighty Ukko. He is a Skinwalker. Skinwalkers are still very rare, so I'm so happy we've got a Skinwalker fusion. That is the right faction to be picking here. If I have to see another Night Revenant fusion this year, I'm going to probably lose my mind. He is a legendary force support champion. We have Ukko Smash. I'm getting like flashbacks to the Marvel Cinematic Universe here, you know, Hulk Smash. We're going to have Ukko Smash. Attacks all enemies, has a 50% chance. That's probably going to have some books maybe of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. Now, here's a good example. I know a lot of people were saying I did a bad take with Ultimate Death Knight, and I'm going to do a follow-up video on that to try and kind of sort of say, was I wrong? Was I right? I know a lot of content creators are saying he's amazing. I've seen Scratch say he's top 15 in Hydra. Hellhades himself has been doing solo content. I have my own opinion, and I'm going to follow up and adapt it slightly, but I don't think it's going to change that much. But as an example here, when we were talking about Ultimate Death Knight, he had an 80% chance book to 100% chance of applying decreased attack on a 3-turn cooldown for 2 turns. It's pretty good when you book it, but you need to book it. Whereas this guy is an A1 AoE 50-50 chance of placing decreased attack. No books needed, no difficulty. I can repeat those attacks. So for something like Clan Boss early on, that's just more reliable because I don't need to invest anything to land it, which is why the value of, say, this ability versus the other one is much higher for me. So that is great. AoE means if you want to run him in a stun set, taunting set, provoke set, you know, those types of CC sets with an AoE A1 is really good. Or if you just want to have him as a standard debuffer, it's AoE, it's great. Another important factor to note about AoE abilities here, when you're doing something like Hydra and you're taking damage and you might have a leech champion out there, if they've AoE and they get War Master, that's a lot more healing than single target. So you actually have a lot more sustainability in the champion as well. So I'm really happy with that first A1. Then we get Ukko's Fury. We're seeing a trend here. Ukko doesn't use many words, he only uses his name. Attacks all enemies 2 times. Each hit has a 75% chance, which I imagine is going to book to 100%, to remove 2 random buffs from the target. Remember, this is AoE, so this is basically it's a double buff removal, and it's each hit. So effectively, probably going to be 100% chance to remove 4 buffs from the targets. Then he places block buffs and 50% decrease accuracy for 2 turns on targets that have no buffs after the attack. That is mental. That is possibly one of the craziest abilities that I have seen on a fusion champion since we've had fusions in this game. Only Brogni really comes close to how crazy this is, and let me explain why, because a lot of people think, you're being very dramatic. In a battle like Hydra, Mischief Head steals 3 buffs off you. Stay like he steals a block debuffs, he steals increased attack, and maybe he steals a shield. Then he decides to spread that to all his allies. Now you can't apply debuffs. In a typical scenario, what I've seen happen in my own experiences, when you've got the Poison Cloud head and you've got the head that cleanses, you then are in a situation where you can't apply a provoke, which means the head will then cleanse all debuffs and then Poison Cloud goes out and your run is pretty much over. And this can happen on a 3%, even if you've got a target set up. Well, this guy comes in and goes, no, this is not what we're doing. We're going to take all of those buffs we've just spread, and then I'm going to put block buffs back out there, and I'm going to put a decreased accuracy on that Mischief Head, so now it reduces his chance of doing it anyway. And even if I've got control of the Mischief Head, I've now got a 100% chance block buffs champion. There are not that many of them. Ukko is probably one of the best ones, but otherwise you're going to have to pull other legendaries. I know Enchantress can do it quite well, but that's all she can do. This guy can do decrease accuracy and block buffs on the same skill and steal buffs. If we put it in arena context, there's not that many times when you're facing opponents that have more than 4 buffs. So this is a full buff removal effectively in that scenario. There will be some scenarios where you get like a Siphi, Cardiel, and lots of buffs potentially. But even in that scenario, you steal all those buffs. If you're fighting a Necret, Necret puts 2 buffs out. You're going to take that, you're going to put block buffs out. Now the Candrathon cannot use Swift Parry. You just kill them. This ability is game-changing. It is so strong. I'm 100% trying to tell people here, Ukko's Fury, one of the best abilities on a Fusion champion we have ever had, by a mile. Ukko's Mercy, again, we're back to Ukko being the main word, revives all dead allies with 40% HP, then places a block damage buff for 1 turn. That's insane. That's very good for a Fusion champion. We've got some Revive All champions that are more accessible, something like Asala the Mourner. We've got Jamasa, was obviously the referral epic. But both of those champions suffer from the main problem, which is you can revive everyone, but then they could just be re-killed. If you have block damage buff, then it gives you a chance to basically allow those champions to get a turn, which might get you back in control of the fight. Also places a 30% increased speed buff on all allies. Increased speed is amazing. For most content, it is really powerful. We'll place the increased speed buff even if there are no dead allies. Now, normally, I'd be actually like, oh, that's not so good. But actually, in this scenario, I mean, for arena defense, it's not amazing because obviously he's going to revive when you don't want him to. But in Hydra, that means you also get now, on top of your block buffs and decreased accuracy and decreased attack, an increased speed champion. You kind of don't need to worry necessarily about the 4-turn, 6-turn, whatever it books to. I'd imagine it's going to be a -2 cooldown. It could be a -1, so it could be 5. But you're not going to worry about waiting for that revive because if you do need it, you can control it better. You know, I'm thinking Duchess, for example, has a 4-turn revive. I know she doesn't use it on default, but I'm not really autoing, so I can manage that better. But the fact he brings an increased speed anyway, so I can use it to get a buff, I'm not just having that skill sit there for when I need an emergency. But if I do get into an emergency, I've got a full team revive. That's amazing. So this ability here, again, so what have we got in this kit so far? AoE decrease attack, brilliant. That's brilliant at all stages of the game. Progression, early game, mid game, late game. In most high-end content, you would want to decrease attack. I'm even thinking something like Elder Dragon. AoE, A1, decrease attack. It's very good. We've got an AoE double hit with a chance to remove 2 random buffs, which I would imagine, I'm going to guess it's going to book to 100%. So it removes 4 buffs, places those buffs, and places a block buffs and a decrease accuracy. So we've got block buffs, decrease accuracy, and decrease attack. Then we get increased speed and a revive. This champion is insane. For a Fusion champion, normally with Fusion champions, they are progression, they're niche, or they're okay. Think Lonatharil. It's got one use, pretty much. Either he's your shielder for progression, or he is the Scarab King Lord. That's kind of all he's got. Bivald of the Thorn was a bit like that. He could keep your team alive, but he didn't really have much of a use. So let's look at that passive. Totem Warden has a 50% chance of stealing 1 random buff from an enemy each time they receive a buff. Any stolen buffs become protected. Wow. And this doesn't have a cooldown. I know it's only 50-50, but that's insane. If Siphi uses her A3, her buffs in Arena, there's a good chance you're going to steal a bunch of those and they all become protected buffs. You can't remove it. Cardiel, he might steal the block, the revive on death. Let's think of Necret. Necret is really dominant right now in Arena. He will place block debuffs, ally protection, and shield on the first target. Is he going to just steal some of those buffs potentially? He will mess with your teams. You will not be able to rely on him. Increase attack. Maybe he steals the increased attack off your nuker in your speed team. He also has an increased ally speed in all battles by 20%. It's one of the most desirable auras in my opinion, because there are not that many auras that are all battles. And when you're in Clan Boss, trying to get an aura for all battles is actually quite rare. Now, obviously, he doesn't bring much for a unkillable Clan Boss like a Demitha team. But for a killable Clan Boss in an early game setting, this guy is insane for that. You get an increased speed buff, which hopefully you can... I know it's a 4-turn, not a 3-turn, which is a bit awkward, but you might be able to utilize to get to a 2-1. You've got a decreased attack, which is nice if you need to keep the damage down. The A2 you would probably just disable, and you would just use it like that because he's got a chance of stealing that increased attack anyway, and it's not really that important. But the aura in itself is quite nice, so it could be used for a lot of early game, mid game clan boss. And then in dungeons, he helps you move. Put him in Hydra, 20% more speed is so valuable. So that's Mighty Ukko. I mean, I can't get more excited than I am already. I mean, I know people sometimes will say, you know, you're very calm when you do these videos. You don't really seem to get excited about Raid anymore. I'm a very calm person in general, but for this champion, I am very excited. I would sit here and say, if you don't try and invest all your resources to get this fusion done, you shouldn't play the game, because this is the type of fusion you do. It is so important to get this champion, in my opinion. I think he's very good. He is probably the best fusion we've had since Brogni, and I think he is better than Hellhades. Hellhades is very strong for clan boss, some niche usages in arena. This guy is potentially arena meta changing in the way that he operates, because he could actually cause Necret to not be as good. It's the first champion that I've seen in a very long time that it actually specifically goes to Necret and goes, hey, I'm not actually going to allow you to do what you're good at. I'm going to try and stop you. Even though Ceres can do the buff removal, Ceres can't then stop Swift Parry on Candrathon. This is an actual specific hard counter for Necret Candrathon teams in defense, or Necret nukers. Nobody can stop you from killing them once you've block buffed and you've removed all those buffs. It's quite insane. Let me know what you think, guys. Now, obviously, I'm super excited. I'm looking very much in sort of arena focused and Hydra. I think generally in other dungeons, especially if you're in the early to mid game, it's very powerful. AoE decrease attack, you put a stun set on him, he's going to keep you going. Yes, it doesn't bring any poisons or any decreased defense or anything else like that. And obviously the A2 may not be so good for like wave progression or for killing bosses, but certainly for some Doom Tower bosses, he's not a bad option. I think he's very good into Celestial Griffin. I think he's very good into Eternal Dragon. I don't think he's necessarily good into something like Dark Fae. Maybe Dreadhorn could have some usages if Ukko's Fury can, if she can sustain that decreased accuracy. Could be interesting. But the fact he steals buff and they become protected is what makes that passive so strong, because it means you can't take it off him anymore. But let me know in the comments below, are you as excited about Mighty Ukko as I am? Are you going to go for him? Are you committed to this champion, or do you just think he's not that good? I would love to hear anyone who thinks he's not that good, to be honest. I actually cannot wait to get my hands on this guy to start messing around with different teams with him. You can look forward to Mighty Ukko content on this channel. But until then, I will catch you in the next video.